Alright, Riftbound fans, today we're diving into the Eye of the Storm. This is the beginner's guide to Volibear, built around ramp, huge bodies, and absolute battlefield dominance. This deck can snowball, ramp, and keep opponents scrambling.
We are going to break down the champions, units, seals, spells, and even our sideboard tech with some tips for both casual and competitive matches. Let's start with the legend Volibear. When you play a mighty unit, you may exhaust Volibear to channel one rune exhausted. That's your ramp engine right there. Bringing out your runes early to play even bigger bodies later in the game.
A mighty unit is a unit that has 5 or more might. As we go along this, you will notice that most of the units that we are running in this deck have more than 5 might, turning this Volibear ability into a masterpiece. His signature champion unit, Volibear Furious. It comes with a nasty attack trigger. 5 damage split among all enemy units at the battlefield. Perfect for softening up those defenders before clearing out the trash.
And the signature spell, Stormbringer. Pick a friendly unit in your base, deal damage equal to its might to all enemy units there, then move that friendly unit into the battlefield. It's board clear and instant battlefield control in one spell. This is your closer. Keep it for when you can swing momentum or outright end the game. Alright, let's move on to the battlefields. The first battlefield up is Sigil of the Storm. When you conquer here, recycle a rune. In a ramp deck, every extra rune means more units, big units, and more pressure. Even though you cycle a rune, when playing those mighty units, you'll get it back thanks to Volibear's legend trait.
Obelisk of Power. At the start of each player's first turn, channel 1 rune. That early ramp lets you jump straight into threats while your opponent's still trying to catch up and place setup pieces.
Finally, Void's Gate. Spells and abilities your units deal an extra 1 damage. This can turn chip damage into lethal pushes, especially when paired with cards like Stormbringer or Disintegrate.
Here's a competitive tip for you. Choose your battlefield based on matchups. Against control, you want resource acceleration. But against swarm decks, you want bonus spell damage so you can break their board apart faster.
Alright, let's talk about the must-haves for this deck. Catalyst of Aeons and Mobilize. Both cards give you that early ramp, while using them late game can draw you your mighty units to overwhelm the board.
A huge tip here, if you see either of these in your opening hand, keep them, even over some mid-cost units. Early ramp is your lifeline in those competitive matchups. Now let's talk about the champion units we're running in this deck.
We already talked about Volibear Furious, but there's also Volibear Imposing. High cost, shield 3, tank, and he draws when your opponent moves to another battlefield. Great for punishing reposition heavy decks.
We have everyone's favorite Misfortune. She brings accelerate and ganking. She hops between battlefields, and every time she moves, she readies up another unit. Perfect for chaining surprise moves in mid to late game pushes.
Next up, we have Tryndamere. Tryndamere is all about point pressure. If he conquers and you've dealt 5+ damage, you score an extra point. With this deck's might values, that's almost guaranteed, making him a dual threat, damage and scoring.
Here are the red units we plan to run in this deck. First, we have Legion Rearguard. Low cost, accelerate, great for early aggression. And along with it, we have the Blazing Scorcher. Can enter ready for a small extra cost, which, as a Volibear, means nothing, giving you that immediate tempo to capture those early points.
Next up, we have Catagrin the Infernal. When played, draw for each mighty unit you have. Since most of your deck is mighty, this becomes a refill engine. Then we move on to Magma Worm. Other friendly units enter ready, giving your whole army accelerate. That's game ending if timed right. Alright, let's move on to the orange units. First up, we have Dead Bloom Predator. can be played into an occupied battlefield, has deflect, and makes spell damage more expensive to hit him. Amazing against spell-heavy control decks.
Deflect is a cool ability where opponents must pay recycle cost to choose that character with a spell or ability, hence making it more expensive to remove the Deathbloom Predator off the field. And the other orange unit we're running is the Carnivorous Snapwine. When played, deal damage equal to its might to an enemy unit. It's a safe, clean removal and still leaves you with a beefy attack.
Alright, let's move on to seals. We run Seal of Strength and Seal of Rage. Play them by recycling rune, tap instead of recycling for a resource boost, and they stick around unless they're removed.
These are your early pressure tools, and here's a competitive tip for you. Think of seals as insurance. They let you keep aggression going through without burning through your key resources.
Let's move on to the spells of this deck. Alongside Catalyst and Mobilize, we've got Challenge. Choose one of yours and one of theirs, and they deal damage equal to their might to each other. In a high might deck, that's almost always a win for you. Disintegrate, deal 3 damage to a unit and draw a card. It's a chip plus card advantage. Finally, we have Stormbringer, which we covered earlier, your massive board control spell. Alright guys, let's talk about the unique thing about Riftbound, the side deck. For the side deck, we keep extra seals for matchups where speed is key. We also have Mountain Drake, 9 cost, 10 might, counts as mighty for Volibear's ability. If the game goes long, this is a hammer that ends it all.
We've also added a champion unit, Seth. Seth is also one of our options where a sudden might spike can push through a defensive wall. He's a momentum shifter that can outright win a battlefield. Seth's ability is when played or when he conquers, he buffs himself. If he doesn't have a buff, he gets +1 might. You can then spend the buff to give it +4 might, making him an absolute unit. In a competitive setting, Seth can come out of nowhere and push lethal damage through an otherwise safe board state.
And here is our complete deck list for Volibear. Volibear is a ramp deck, but ramping for the sake of ramping isn't enough. You have to know when to pivot from building your board to striking your opponent. Patience always wins games. Time your big plays for when your opponent can't answer them, and use your seals and mobility units to force bad trades for your opponent. Play it right, and you'll be the storm your opponents never see coming. We hope you enjoyed our beginner's guide to Volibear the Relentless Storm. Let us know in the comments what deck you want to see next. If you like what you saw, make sure to like and subscribe to Haven for all things TCG related.